Hey everyone, it's Andrea, Collector's Corner Assistant Manager out of Baltimore, Maryland. I'm feeling much better this week, and thanks especially to Brandon Graham for the well wishes. Turns out I had strep throat, so I was out of commission for a couple of days, but I'm back in the saddle and I'm reading more comics, so these are my staff picks for April the 2nd. First up is Dark Horse. Veil. I had a lot of good things to say about issue 1, came out a month ago. Issue 2 continues to be really great. I had someone compare the artwork to stained glass, which is actually a really apt description. Like, you can look at the shadows in it, and it just looks... The way that the coloring is done, the way that everything is done, it just looks beautiful, and it really adds to the story of it. It continues to be interesting in a way. They're in the second issue, they take it a little bit into another place, and I like that, so I'm excited to see what ends up happening with the story. Definitely pick up Veil. Definitely an interesting read. Next up is Image. Starlight. Again, second issue, just as good, if not better, than the first one. The artwork in this one as well is amazing, and the story continues to be really great. I'm excited to see where they take it next. Probably going to be my favorite Miller book that has ever come out. Starlight is really good. I would definitely recommend picking it up. And I read Wanted, and I liked it. I read the first Kick-Ass, and it was alright. I read Nemesis, and I thought it was really funny. But Starlight is unlike anything else in the Millerverse, and I like it. I think it's interesting the way that he's portraying the characters, and so far it reads spectacularly different from anything else that he's done. So I'm excited in that, and I'm excited to see where the characters go and develop. My last three for this week are Marvel. Moon Knight. This was really in contention for pick of the week. It's not a Moon Knight story. He shows up... Hold on, let me count the pages. Yeah, he shows up in, like, maybe the last 5 pages of the story. 1, 2, 3... Yeah. Like, the last 6 pages. And it's not even a story about Moon Knight. It's a story about... It's so well done, and it's so well written that if I were to tell you anything about this issue, it would ruin the story, which is how a good comic should be done. I shouldn't be able to say, oh well, it's Batman, but he worships the moon. Because that's not it entirely. Warren Ellis is taking this character, and he's created an entirely new identity for it, which is really kind of the heart of the story, is all of the identities of Khonshu and everything that he's doing. But this, as a second issue, normally you have the first issue and it introduces what they're going to do with the character. Second issue expands on what they're doing with the character and sets up the main plot point for the rest of the series. But in this second issue, it doesn't do any of that. And Moon Knight has no reason to be in it. If he didn't show up, the story wouldn't be much different. I think that's amazing. I think it's great. I think it's so interesting and well done for me that it feels like a really satisfying TV show. Like, I read this and it felt like a really good BBC show. Like, when you find a show on Netflix that nobody else has heard of, and you're like, man, you have to watch this. And then they watch it and they're like, oh man, why don't more people know about this? That's what this Moon Knight feels like. It's like, why aren't you reading Moon Knight? Well, it's just Batman, but he worships the moon. Like, no, you don't understand. There's so much more than that happening in this story. And it's just so... It's so refreshing to me to read something like this. I don't know, man. Just... The first issue was cool, and it did set up what they were going to do with the character. But the second issue, man, it was really good. As a standalone issue, you don't have to know anything about anything to read Moon Knight issue 2. And it was just good. Like, it was a nice, like, palate cleanser comic almost. Like, I read it and I was just really pleased with it. And I feel like that's how a comic should be. And I'm going to stop rambling about Moon Knight now, because if I don't stop, I'm never going to stop. And there are still comics to be discussed. Inhuman, #1. I'm excited for this Marvel event. I haven't been keeping track with the last couple of Marvel events, but I'm a big fan of the Inhumans, and I want to see where this goes. And I kept up enough to know that the Terrigen Mists are happening, and that was a thing. And there's this really nice little recap right in the beginning that tells you exactly what happened to set this up. I'm a sucker for Joe Madureira's artwork. I've been following him ever since Battle Chasers, which will never be finished, but that's okay. I've accepted it. It's alright. And his artwork just, I think, is good. So, the story is interesting. It's a good, solid first issue for a Marvel event, and I'm excited to see what happens with Inhuman. Pick for this week. So, if you thought I rambled about Moon Knight, hold on to your britches. Magneto issue 2. It's disturbing and fulfilling in a way that I didn't think a character like this could be. I'm a big sucker for really, frankly, disturbing documentaries. I watch a lot of, like, The Killing Fields, and I've watched more, Holocaust documentaries than probably anybody else out there, and my Netflix library is just mostly just Disney films and, like, really terrifying documentaries about people dying in really terrible ways. And so to read Magneto, I feel like this character is finally interesting to me, because I never read a lot of X-Men in the past, and Magneto seemed like a very one-off character. And I'm sure that there's stuff out there that I can read that will go more into his character and that will be more interesting. But for me, as someone who doesn't know what to read and is just overwhelmed with choices in the X-Men library, to have a new Marvel #1, to read it and to enjoy it this much, issue 2 to me was better than the first, because it explores his character in a way that I had never seen before. And you always have that thing with Magneto of, we get it. Your character was conceived in the Holocaust. You're seeing parallels between that and between mutants, and that's really a defining characteristic for Magneto, and that's fine, and that's well, and that's good, but you have to balance it within the character, and I feel like it's balanced very well in this book, and I feel the artwork really adds to it. The writing is really great, because it slips between, you have this outside view of, these are the scenes in which Magneto has left, and you have eyewitnesses, and they're interviewing the eyewitnesses, and they're talking about how he acts and how he speaks and how he looks. And then you have Magneto himself, and he's going through, this is why I do this, this is why that happened, this is why all of these things are going on. And it's really disturbing to read, and just unsettling and good. I really like Magneto. Pick of the week, which is hard because there were a lot of good books this week. I mean, this and Moon Knight, it's more of a tie than anything, but I gotta give it to Magneto, because I really This is the last book I read that week, and it really got me right in the heart. And that's what a good comic book should do, you guys. Should make you think and make you pause and stop and say, wow, that was a good book. So, it's Marvel heavy this week, but don't forget, Veil, issue 2, Starlight, issue 2, Moon Knight, issue 2, Inhuman 1, and Magneto 2. It's a lot of number 2s. Number 1s are out there. You should be able to find second printings, if not first printings. I very much recommend you pick those books up and check them out. And I will see you at the comic shop.